Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah. In this video, we're making a layered greetings card, but we're not just doing the card, we're creating the layered image in Design Space too. I'll show you how to start with any one layer SVG or image. I'm using this floral cat from Cricut Access, and how to add layers inside it in all different colors to turn it into something that you can then cut from colors of cardstock and stick together to make a 3D layered effect just like this card. It's really pretty, and best of all, it's super easy to do from within Design Space. Let's get started. To start, open up Cricut Design Space and begin a new project. I'm going to start by showing you how to add layers to a very simple black and white image, and then we'll move on to creating a more detailed Zentangle design. So to start with, let's choose a simple image. I'll go into Images, and let's just go for a butterfly. And then I'll choose one that's got nice thick outlines so that the Cricut would be able to cut it from cardstock. And one that's got spaces for me to fill in with different colours. So I'll go for this one here from Eli Art Studio. Here's the number in case you want to make the exact same one. And we'll add it to canvas. So the very basic idea of adding colours to make a multi-layered image suitable for cutting from cardstock is to use this contour tool down on the bottom right of the layers panel. First, we'll need to make a copy of this one. So I'll duplicate the layer by pressing the duplicate button up here. And now I have a second one. I'll do this as my very bottom layer, so I want to fill in all the different gaps. First, let's change the colour. I'll go for a nice bright yellow. Click on the contour tool. And for this one, I want to fill in everything. So I can just press hide all contours and then close out of there, and everything's filled in. If I move that so that it's below the black one, you see we've now got a 2-layer image. Let's add another layer. So I'll click it again and duplicate. This time I'll make it this kind of orangey colour, and I'll fill in a couple of the areas, but not all of them. So maybe the top one in there and the middle one in there, and then close. And then you can see that's filled in some of the gaps. So if I move that in the layers panel so it's between the black and the yellow, we've now got this effect. And if you select them all and press align and then center, it'll put them exactly one on top of the other. So you can see how in just a few clicks, we've changed our one color, one layer image into one that's now 3 separate layers to cut from 3 different colors of cardstock. And really, it doesn't get a lot more difficult than that. It's just you can make the images a lot more complicated. So I'll delete these ones and we'll find a more complicated image to work with. I'll go into Images again, and this time search for Zentangle. You could also try Mandala or Filigree. Now remember, we'll be cutting this from cardstock, so we need to make sure we choose an image with nice thick lines on it, because if they're too thin, it will struggle a little bit for the Cricut to cut it from card. For example, this is beautiful with all of the flowers. However, it's very detailed and fine. So I think this would probably be better suited for cutting from vinyl rather than cardstock. We're looking for images more like these state outlines with a nice thick black edge on them. To make it easier to find an image to work with, you can look under Operations Type in the filter and change it to Cut Only. And then scroll down again, and under Layers, choose Single, because we're only looking for images that are one layer currently so that we can fill in the colours. And it gets a little tricky to find them because there are so many thousands and thousands of images available now that it can be a little bit harder to find suitable ones. This would be quite a nice one to choose. If you're looking for a particular image, you could try adding a word after it. For example, Zentangle cat, and then I get different cat options. This would be a nice one to choose. That's got nice thick edges on it. Also, this one with the flowers in, I think that's probably just about going to work. That would be a nice one to choose. I might actually pick that one. I'll click on it and decide in a little while. This one here would also be a nice one to choose. That's the number of that one. I didn't actually show the number of the floral one. There you go. Another way to search for images to use is to go back to your image search and click on image sets. And then type Zentangle into there, and then that will search the actual Cricut Zentangle images. So these are ones that have been added by Cricut themselves rather than any of the contributing artists. And there are a few different collections in here. For example, this one, Favorite Zentangles Collection, 51 images. If you click into there, then you see there are loads of different ones, and these would all work great. You see that's actually the cat one I've already selected. So there's a few different ways to find images. I'm going to add these ones to my canvas and then decide which one to do. Oh, this is always the hardest bit, choosing image. I think I'll go for the one with the flowers. So I'll delete that one. Here's my cat with the flowers inside. And to start with, I'll do the very bottom layer as that is the easiest. So I'll click it, duplicate it, and I'll change this one to a nice light blue. So it'll kind of look like the sky poking in between all of the leaves and the flowers. Press contour, wait for it to load, hide all contours and close, and that will fill it in. If I move that to the bottom and then go align, center, there, we've already got 2 layers done, nice and easy. As we go along, I'm going to name the layers by double clicking the color that I changed them to. It just helps to keep everything a little bit more organized. Okay, so I'm going to make my top or bottom first. It doesn't really matter which way round you go as long as you are consistent. So I could either fill in what I want my next top layer to be, which will be some of these petals on the flowers, or I could do the very bottom, which would probably end up being the leaves or possibly the buds of the flowers. Let's go top to bottom. So I'm going to duplicate the black layer, and a little trick you can do to duplicate it in exactly the same place is by using the Alt key on your keyboard. So you see, this is what my mouse cursor looks like. If I press the Alt key and then move the mouse ever so slightly, you see my cursor changed. So now it's showing a little plus sign next to it. I'll let go of the Alt key, go back to normal, and show you again. So I've got the Alt key pressed, move the mouse ever such a slightly amount, and it changes to get that plus sign. Now with the Alt key still held down, click your mouse and then you can let go of the Alt key. And that's made a copy of that top layer. So I've now got 2 versions of it. I'll name the second one down. I'll do this as a light purple because I want to make some 2-toned flowers. And then I'll make it all a little smaller and move it to one side. This is a little trick for if you've got a large screen on your computer. So now if I click the layer and press contour, I can still see my image as I'm working in the contour window. And this is helpful because it means when I click, you can see, oh, I haven't actually changed the color to purple. Hang on, let's do that first. There we go. As I was saying, now that I've got this showing here, it means as I start to fill things in by clicking the little pictures, you can see it replicated on the actual design on your canvas. It just makes it a little easier, to see what you're doing. And that went wrong then because I accidentally clicked my outline rather than what was in the middle. To fix that, click the very top piece that appears in the contour window and then it will come back. It's probably going to be easier for me to zoom in. Sometimes when you are clicking, it will stop filling it in over here. It seems to be a little bit temperamental. Often if you kind of take a break or aren't very quick with it, then it can stop filling it in. That's absolutely fine. As soon as you close the contour window, it will remember everything you've done and fill it in. If you've got a small screen, for example, maybe you're on a smaller laptop, then unfortunately moving it to the side won't work because you'll probably find that the contour window fills your entire screen, so you won't be able to see it here. But it doesn't matter too much because you can still get a good visual idea of what you filled in by looking in the contour window, because you can see it goes this sort of very pale grey when you have filled it in. So I'm going to go and do a few more of these petals. I want my flowers to be 2 different colours, so I'm not doing every single piece of them. Just a few. See, now you see I'm clicking and it's not updating here. I'm not quite sure why it doesn't always fill it in, but it's okay. As I said, it's not really a problem because when I close out of here, let's just close and then click away, it then remembers it and fills in. Now I'm ready to do the next layer, and I want to duplicate my purple one this time. So I just hid that black one. Then I've got my purple. I'm going to do the same thing in place. So Alt and click, and it will move it to the top. It's still called light purple, but I'm going to actually remember to change the colour this time and rename this to, can't spell, dark purple. And then drag the black back on top. It actually needs to go, apologies, under the light purple one because this is going to be a layer underneath. All right, so now I can't see that dark purple because it's being covered by the light purple. But when I go to contour, wait for it to load, and then start clicking into the rest of the petals, I'm going to start to see it. And I will need to zoom in. And I'm going to fill these. I'm not quite sure how I managed to click into a leaf. Now I'm filling in the rest of all of the petals on the flowers to get that 2-tone effect that I wanted. It does take a little bit of trial and error. You see it stopped filling it in again over there. But be patient with it. As with most things in Design Space, if you're patient and take your time, then it will turn out lovely. All right, so that's all my purple done. There it is. And then next, let's do the green leaves. If we just pull them away first to see what we've got so far. This is what the pieces are looking like. So you can see how it progressively gets filled in as we move towards the bottom. I'll put these back in place. So this time I want to duplicate the dark purple layer, and the reason why I'm duplicating that one is that I'm filling in the next layer down. I'm adding more filled in bits, so I still want all of these flowers to be completely filled in, even though I'm changing it to green, because they're going to be covered up with the purple. There's no point in just filling in the green leaves and leaving the flowers empty, because then the Cricut would have to cut all of that detail up only for me to cover it up with the purple card. So it's just a waste. So it's much easier to duplicate each layer as we go down. And then this will be my green, and that will go underneath the dark purple. And let's start contouring. There's quite a few bits on here. This might take a while. Okay, you can see it's filling in. Not quite sure on this bit where the actual leaves are. I think that probably looks right. I'm going to fill in this tiny gap as well, just because it's so small. It might as well be filled in. If you accidentally click something you didn't mean to, you can just click it again to open it back up again, rather than filling it in. Oh, I've missed a petal there, look. Okay, let's fill that one in. I'll need to go and do that on the purple layer as well. Okay, I think that's all the leaves. Click away and it will fill in. But yeah, I did definitely miss that one. So let's go back to my dark purple and wait for it to load. Fill that in. There, that's better. This is looking really good. I've just now got one bit left to do, which will be the little buds for my flowers. And I think I'll do them in kind of a creamy beige. I suppose really it should probably be purple to match the flowers, but I want to do them cream. So this time I'm duplicating the green. I'll rename my layer cream. Change the colour. There we go. Drag it down underneath the green and contour. These little tiny buds are going to be quite hard to click on here because they're so small. So what I'm going to do instead is look down the shapes on the contour window until I find them. This goes in size order, so I can go right down to the bottom, and that's where I'll find all the tiny little bud shapes. And you can see as you click, it also fills it in over on the left. You can see at the very top of the tail, as I'm clicking this on and off, it's filling it in. So just double check that everything you're clicking actually is what you're intending to fill in. Oops, see that one there, that actually wasn't, that should be sky. That one, so I'm going to open that back up. But these are all the buds, and that looks like all of them. And there we go, that is our original one layer image. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I might just rename that top one to black just so that they are all given their colours. We then need to size this so it's ready to cut at whatever size you want to make it. I'm going to drag a box around everything and group the layers together by pressing this group button at the top of the layers panel. And now when you resize it, it will resize everything in proportion. So all your layers are going to change together, which means they'll all still perfectly line up when you're done. Make sure the padlock icon at the top of the width and the height box is closed. If it's open, you can click on it to close it. You might need to click it a couple of times before it closes. And now I can have a little think about the size. This would look nice on a 5x7 inch greetings card. So I'm going to go for around maybe 6.5 inches tall. You see when I hit return on my keyboard there, the width changed too, so everything is still in proportion. There we go. It took a little while to change. Okay, that looks really small now, but I am zoomed out, so if I go back to 100%, it looks a little better. Now this next bit is not part of the layering process, but if you did want to make a greetings card to put your layered design on, you can do that in Design Space too. I'll go into shapes and choose a square, and I'll make a 5x7 inch card. So tick your padlock to unlock it, and then my width will be 10, which is double 5, and my height will be 7 because I'll make a portrait card because my image is portrait. And then change the colour. Could maybe be the same purple. And then if you have a scoring stylus or scoring wheel, you can add a score line down the middle of this to make it easier to fold. To do that, go into Shapes and choose a score line. Make it the height of your card. Drag a box around both of those and go Align, Center to put the score line exactly in the middle. We need to tell the Cricut that this is where we want it to score. To do that, with both of those layers still selected, down the bottom of the Layers panel, press Attach. And then we can add some extra layers to this to give it a little bit of pop. I'll go into Shapes again and choose a square, and this time I'll make it a little bit smaller on each side. I've got my padlock open so that I can take off that same amount on each of my width and height. And let's try for 1/2 inch. That'll be 4.5 wide, 6.5 tall. And that's going to give me a nice even border. And I'll make this my dark purple. And then we'll do one more in a nice light colour so that the cat will be really easy to see. This time I'll just take 1/4 inch off each side. So that makes it 4.25 by 6.25. And this can probably be that nice creamy colour. And now we need to check the cat will fit. Press Arrange, Bring to Front, and it's a little big at the moment, so we'll just make it smaller so that it fits on there. And I think that will look lovely as a greetings card. So I'm going to go ahead and save now. We'll press Save, and let's call it Flower Cat Greetings Card. You probably should have saved along the way. I always forget to save until the very end, but it is good practice to kind of save every 5 or 10 minutes, just in case anything happens and you don't want to lose everything that you've done. But I'm really happy with this and how it turned out. I think it looks really pretty. Let's just take one final look at how all of those layers look, just so that you can see how it's all come together. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, and then we'll have a little look at sticking it together. Because it does have lots of thin edges, this one probably will be easier to glue all the pieces together rather than using any foam squares, just because it is quite thin, but I like adding a bit of dimension, and I definitely like a challenge, so I probably will still add some foam, but we'll take a little look at that once it's cut out. But here we go. This is how it's all ended up looking. You can see how the colours build, and then when they're all put one on top of the other, it just fills in that image really beautifully to make your layered cardstock creation. When you're ready to cut it out, click Make over on the top right, and that will separate out all the different colours for you. You can change the paper size in here. I tend to use A4. And then you can also use the arrows to take up less space. So at the moment, this is cutting quite a lot into my sheet. Whereas if I rotate it and hold the Shift key down so I can get it. Oops, I let go of the Shift key too early. I was going to say hold the Shift key down to get it exactly 90 degrees. If I cut it that way out, it means I'm going to have all of this space on my card left to use on another project another day. You will need to go and change each single colour individually, so go ahead and get everything looking how you want it to, then press Continue to connect to your Cricut machine, get everything cut out from your layers of colour cardstock, and then we'll see about sticking it all together. Here are all of the pieces for my cat cut out, and I've laid them one on top of the other in order. You can see here I've used quite a dark green for the leaves, which you can't see too well against the black. I probably should have done them a little bit lighter, but overall this just looks so pretty with all those different colours. Now I've got my base card here, which I think I'll stick together first. So here's my card scored down the middle and folded. And then I've got my 2 layered pieces here. So first I'll glue the white onto that dark purple. It goes right in the middle. And I'm really bad at lining things up straight, but I will do my best. There we go. And then all of this onto the front of my greetings card. Once again, I'll try and get it straight and actually slap bang in the middle. There we are. And now we can move on to the cat. First, I'll split all of these pieces out so that you can see everything we've got. This is all the layers that were created in Cricut Design Space, all come together to make all the pieces of the layered design. And I've just noticed there's a tiny bit of purple still in the middle of there that hasn't quite popped out when I was taking the cardstock off the mat. So I'm just going to... It hasn't actually cut through there. That's fine, I'm just going to leave it. This is my very top layer, and you can see it is quite narrow, but the Cricut cut it from cardstock beautifully. Did a really good go at that. I'm really happy with how that turned out. Alright, so I'm going to leave these in the correct order. And I think I'm going to use some foam squares for this layer, the white one, and then glue everything else on. That way all the flowers and leaves will have a little bit of depth and dimension out from that base piece. So I've got my foam squares. These are quite small ones, which is going to work well. I've got a pack that I've already got open. And I'll add some of these to the back. Now, because I did resize this layered design quite small so it would fit on a greetings card, my border outlines are very thin. So I'm not going to try and get my foam into those gaps. If you've cut yours big, maybe to go in a frame, or to put straight on the wall, or something like that, then if your outlines are big enough, do add some little bits of foam because it will help. But I think mine is all just a little bit too thin. It'd be good to cut some of these smaller to go in a couple of these, and then ideally it does need the tiniest strip of foam in there, otherwise that's not going to have anything to hold it up, and probably again in there. But I'm just looking around my craft space. I can't find my scissors. Why do scissors always disappear? Alright, I found some. So I'm just going to cut a strip of these off and hope that this is thin enough. It still might not be actually. But just so I can get a couple more bits of foam in to give it more stability around some of those thin bits. And that'll just about go there. Ooh, this fit in there? Nearly. We don't want to be able to see the foam from the other side, so that's why I'm trying quite hard to get it lined up. I have to just cut that corner off. Fold it back. Okay. Right, now I've got my foam on. I can peel the backs off to reveal all that stickiness underneath. Being very careful that the pressure of me pulling on these foam squares doesn't rip any of the thin bits. Right, here we go. Then I can line this up and gently drop it down. The reason for that is that it's not stuck yet, not properly. So if I needed to, I could move it if I wasn't quite happy. But actually that looks good. So I'll push down to seal. And then everything else I'm going to glue. For this particular type of layered design where we're using the whole outline for every single layer, it does kind of look best if the majority of them are glued. Otherwise you get kind of shadowing in between the different layers if you use foam on more than just that bottom one, which makes it a little bit harder to see the colours. If you're more interested in making layered designs that you can add lots of foam squares to really make something impactful, then keep watching for a couple more minutes and I will show you how you can find out how to do that. So that's really lovely. You can see those little pops of white. And then my green, which was a little bit of a dark green. I am slightly regretting not recutting that as a lighter green, but we will go with it. And there we go. That's my layered cat. All finished, looking very, very pretty. I got a couple of little bits of glue smushing out, but it dries clear, so I'm not too worried about that. And then all that's left to do is to glue this to the front of my greetings card. This is a little bit heavy now with all these layers of card. So I'm going to make sure there's lots of glue on there. And then that fits beautifully because we lined it all up in Design Space to make sure it was going to fit. And there we go. So pretty and something truly unique because you'll have created all the layers yourself. So you'll have made something 100% from scratch using a one-layered image, turning it into a multi-layered one. And if you'd like to learn even more about creating layered images from within Design Space, check this out. Lovely Layering is my step-by-step video course where you'll learn everything you need to know about creating gorgeous layered designs right within Cricut Design Space. It's time to learn how to make your own layered projects that look exactly how you want them to, with 18 different types of layered cardstock projects covered. Visit craftwithsarah.com/layering to find out more. If you're watching this video before the end of April 2024, use code APRIL to save $30 on your order. Or if you're watching this after that date, use code YouTube to save $20. Here's a closer look at everything that's included in Lovely Layering. Lesson 1, Part 1, Making Layered Designs with the Contour Tool. Learn how to turn one-colour images into beautiful multi-layered designs using the Contour Tool in Cricut Design Space. If you're new to Design Space, you'll want to start with this lesson as it teaches the key tools we'll be using for the rest of the projects. It's the perfect introduction to creating layered cardstock designs. Lesson 1, Part 2, Adding More Depth with the Slice Tool. This lesson builds on Part 1. Instead of simply filling in the patterns on the Zentangle images with colours, you'll use the Slice tool to split up the image to create more realistic depth. Watch your images transform into gorgeous and realistic 3D designs. Lesson 2, Layering Text and Words with Offset. The Offset tool allows you to easily create layered designs that work really well as cake toppers or to go on greetings cards. Make a simple text-based cake topper to get to grips with how the Offset tool works and get my top tips for how to make ombre outlines to your words. Lesson 3, Layering Images with Offset. 3 different ways. It's not just text that you can use offset on. Learn how to apply it to images and even to multiple layers all at once. We'll take 3 different images and use the offset tool in 3 separate ways. I bet you'll never have guessed this little Design Space button was so powerful. Lesson 4, Designing shadow boxes that really pop. Make your own perfect wall decor craft projects. Craft along with me to make a layered wolf shadow box design. The techniques you'll learn in this lesson can then be used to make any theme of shadow box for any occasion. Lesson 5, shaped shadow boxes with LED lights. Let's level up our shadow boxes by creating the 3D levels inside the shape of another image instead of simply putting them into a square. Learn the key differences between designing a shadow box to be cut from coloured cardstock versus one that's lit up with LED or fairy lights. Lesson 6, layered greetings cards for any occasion. Make easy greetings cards for all occasions. Creating personalised cards for family and friends is the perfect way to show how much you care for them. This is one of the most popular lessons in Lovely Layering. We'll even add a scoreline to make the cards easy to fold. Lesson 7, stencil letter shadow boxes with DIY patterns. Add your initial to a shadow box and create a stepped shadowing effect with a custom pattern. Personalised home decor never got so easy. Whoever it's for, you can make them something unique. Lesson 8, Part 1. Simple layered letters using any font. Layered letters were the first things I ever made when I got my Cricut, so I love teaching these lessons. Let's start with a simple introduction to making layered letters with a floral rose initial. Lesson 8, Part 2, complex layered letters, aka mandala alphabets. Take everything you learned in the previous video and expand on it. Add custom patterns inside letters, create filigree backgrounds, and add images to the top. The end results are nothing short of stunning. Lesson 9. Add layers to any silhouette or outline image. Found the perfect image to use in your craft project, but it's a solid silhouette with no patterns to use to create layers. Here's how to convert solid images into an outline and then add a beautiful mandala design inside so that it can be layered. Lesson 10. Designing layered clocks, a great birthday gift. Make a custom clock that really works. See how to position the numbers so that they look even around the edge of the clock and add fun designs to the middle. I bet you never thought you could make this with your Cricut. Lesson 11. Creating detailed word scenes with pictures inside. Stretch the same layered design across multiple separate layers to build a fun and unusual word scene. Word scenes look wonderful mounted in a long, thin frame or even stuck directly onto a wall, particularly in nurseries or children's playrooms. Lesson 12. Simple shadow boxes with inset. Instead of building letters that pop outwards, how about building the layers inwards instead? This is another lesson using the trusty offset tool in Design Space. Make custom layered inset shadow boxes in just a couple of minutes. Lesson 13, Part 1, converting PNG or JPEG images with outlines into cuttable designs. Ever wanted to take an image you found online and convert it to a layered cardstock design? Here's how. See how to upload images to Design Space and format them to improve the quality and turn them into cuttable creations. Lesson 13, Part 2, converting images without outlines into cuttable designs. This is the same sort of thing as the previous lesson, but this time it's for when your original image doesn't have thick outlines on it. The steps needed to turn this type of image into a layered one is a little different, but it's still totally possible to do. Lesson 14, Part 1, removing backgrounds from photographs. Before we can start turning photographs into layered designs, we need to do a few little tweaks to make them easier to convert. Here's how to remove backgrounds from photographs so that we can focus on crafting just the key elements of the photograph composition. Lesson 14, Part 2, turning photo silhouettes into layered shadow boxes. Now that we've removed the background from our photo, we can cut it out. Here's how to turn a photo into a silhouette and then add it into a shadow box with a mandala background. Perfect for wedding photos and anniversary or Valentine's Day gifts. Lesson 15, Part 1, converting photos to one-layer SVGs. Shh, don't tell anyone, but this is a vinyl-based lesson, not cardstock. Turn a photograph into a one-layer SVG file that's suitable for cutting from vinyl, or cardstock, of course. This lesson uses free third-party software, not Design Space, but don't worry, it's really easy to use. Lesson 15, Part 2, turning photos into grayscale layered designs. Use the same computer program from the previous lesson to turn your favourite family photos into layered grayscale designs. The different shades of grey make your photos look super realistic when cut from cardstock. Lesson 15, Part 3. Converting photos to coloured cardstock designs. Don't like the look of the grayscale designs? Use Design Space to turn it back into colour. This process takes a little while to complete, but once it's finished, you'll have a stunning full-colour cardstock replica of your original photograph. Lesson 16. Combine multiple images into one design. Got lots of images that you want to turn into one? See how to do that here. Turn multiple flowers into a beautiful bouquet displayed in a paper craft vase. Learn my tricks to format the layers to make it easy to stick together. Lesson 17, Paper Wreaths. Create beautiful flower wreaths from cardstock. These are such pretty paper craft projects. See how to make up the circular base to your wreath and then add flowers and other decorations, including how to merge the same colours together to make large, easy to stick layers. Lesson 18, Giant Off-the-Mat Signs. The course ends with something impressive. Design giant signs that go as big as your dreams. I usually make them around 25 to 28 inches wide for a paper craft that really packs a punch. We'll split the bottom pieces into sections so that they can still be cut on a regular Cricut cutting mat from 12 by 12, US letter, or A4 card. Learn all the skills you need to master creating layered designs with your Cricut machine. Head to craftwithsarah.com/layering to find out more and to purchase the lovely layering course. Don't forget, use discount code APRIL to save $30 if you're watching this before the end of April 2024. If you're watching this after then, you can use code YouTube to save $20 on your order. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon inside Lovely Layering. Thank you for watching. Bye!